Welcome back to the lecture on macroeconomics for manager, and we have been discussing about the models in macroeconomics, and we have been basically talking about Phillips curve, and we were explaining different phenomena that explains the Phillips curve or that actually defies the Phillips curve. So we have kind of discussed three different scenarios where the factors are different and they may influence the Phillips curve differently. Um, so now we'll finish with a couple of more cases. Let's say that in some cases you can also see, let's say the case number 4, that the fiscal or monetary policy does not work, does not work, does not work to actually improve the sort of unemployment situation actually, or create sort of more output. It doesn't work. So in the third case where I said that the fiscal or monetary policy does work, and there is an example to it, and that example is the great so example is post the Great Depression. Post the Great Depression in the United States, US, in say 1928. So basically, what the government did was that basically it actually spent a lot of money. Actually, it provided direct cash. It created a lot of employment, even if that was not really meaningful employment, but it did create employment so that people can actually spend, like get money and spend money. So that was the idea. That was basically the idea behind this fiscal or monetary policy. So that actually helped. That actually helped United States tremendously to come out of this Great Depression. Okay. So it might also happen that fiscal or monetary policy doesn't really work, and then you need to, this is kind of a O-ring situation. O-ring situation. And we'll talk about this kind of situations where you really cannot O-ring, where you really cannot, fit things into your Phillips curve framework. But we'll talk about this phenomena later on. There's another case. The inflation unemployment relationship in short run and long run. So what we have seen here, relationship in short and long run. So what I've seen here is a short run phenomena, and we will also see what it is in the long run. And before that, of course, we have to define what I mean by short run and long run, which I haven't done it yet. So let's just, this is a possibility we have to explore. So I'm just writing down that these are the cases. When you're actually building a macroeconomic model, you need to kind of think about all these possibilities. Okay. Well, so let me ask you another question. So this is another case. So let me ask you this question. Suppose there is a tremendous technological improvement. Okay, so tremendous technological improvement, which means that your per unit, production per, so the output per unit labor is much higher now. So basically, you don't need to deploy as many labor as you had to, or you can actually create a lot of employment because you have new technology. So both are possibilities. Either it depends how the relationship between technology and labor is. But let's say this technology, and I'm giving this example from a real life scenario, and I'll just tell you which scenario this is. Let's say that your improvement in technology is also creating jobs. Okay, so when I have like my technology is creating jobs, so let's say this new technology is creating employment. Not necessary that technology will always destroy employment. New technology is creating employment, and when my new technology is creating employment, I have to sort of understand, or another factor I need to. I'll just come to that. So I have to understand what is the implication of this on the Phillips curve. So that's basically the discussion here. I have to also take an assumption that skills are available. So it's not that skills are not available. If the skills are available, so what will happen? The skills are available, let's say. So this is a phenomena of 1990s when we had this massive IT boom, IT industry boom. And what happened was, because the output was so okay, let's first go to the supply demand framework, right? So what is happening here is, this is my demand curve, this is my supply curve, and because of the new technological boom, so my supply curve shifted to right. And when my supply curve shifts to right, what happens is that my quantity production is much higher, my price becomes much lower, right? So which is like a very good scenario for the consumers, right? So this is my P old, this is my Q old, this is my P new, this is my Q new, right? So because of this technological improvement, my quantity production is much higher, price is much lower, and this is something we have actually seen in 1990s due to this IT boom, IT industry boom. And what happened was, because the output was much higher and it was actually creating employment also, the price was low. The price was low, and the unemployment was also low. That is kind of counterintuitive. That doesn't really fit the Phillips curve framework, but that's what reality is. And we have seen a scenario where we have something like this sort of relationship we saw in 1990s, where I had low sort of employment, low unemployment, and low price. Okay, whereas the Phillips curve would ideally fit like this. Okay, so these are the kind of different phenomena we need to kind of consider when I am trying to build a model, and I'm trying to also explain why certain things don't fit the model or certain things will fit the model, under what condition they will fit the model. Okay, so that is another case for Phillips curve, right? So when we need to kind of explore. Okay, so one thing I said, that skills are available. So skills, suppose if there is some shortage of skill here. So let's say this is case number 7. If there is some shortage of skills here, let's say shortage of skills case, what color I'm using, so I'll be using the same color, shortage of skills, then the case will be different. Shortage of skills. If there are shortage of skills, let's just imagine what will happen. So there are some skills, some available. So let's say this IT industry itself. So let's say we don't have supply of IT, so high tech IT industry labor. So what will happen is, the people who have this IT industry skills, so they will get a higher wage because they're in demand, right? And at the same time, there will be high demand for this labor, and it is also likely that unemployment will be high. So depending on whether the skills are available or not, that will kind of decide a lot of things. Okay, this phenomena may actually change, and here that is why we need to sort of consider the trade-off between skill and unemployment. Like skill and availability of labor, let's say. So skill and availability of labor, skill and its availability, let's say. It can also happen that there will be massive income inequality, and which is basically the case that we see today. So this is another discussion altogether. But again, it is relevant for our discussion here. Like we should know what are the possibilities. The last thing that is kind of intriguing, and I'm really interested in this, is that um, we don't see Phillips curve in India, and that we have been actually exploring for many years. Okay, and why is that? Why we can't see Phillips curve in India? And this is something I will again discuss the Phillips curve later in this lecture. So then we'll take up all these different issues that I have kind of mentioned here. Okay, but the whole idea is here that the reason I kind of explained all these different cases is to give you a sense of, when you're trying to build a macroeconomic model, what are the different things that we need to consider. Now, the last thing that I will talk about is something that I also spoke before in our lecture in econometrics, and that is causality, right? Causality. So essentially, when we build a model, so out of all this plausible structure, it is very important for a macroeconomist to know which one is actually causing the problem. or triggering the phenomena. Because if we don't know which lever to pull if I want to stop or if I want to expedite, if I want to do anything with this phenomena. So it's like, several symptoms I have, and if the doctor doesn't know which symptoms to address, so the disease will not be cured. And when it's a matter of macroeconomics, which is like really like the economics of the whole country, it has a like fatal consequences. So we need to be very careful about which is the causal explanation and how do we kind of bring the causal explanation. So in this case, for example, I said in macroeconomics the data is mostly, you don't really have experimental data, it's mostly observational data. So let me write down these are the symptoms, and you have data. So we have mostly observational data. From this observational data, what we do is we kind of try to sort of compare. For example, I was giving different cases in different economies in different time, what happened and how it happened. So we kind of use those frameworks to kind of explain what is happening here in a given context. So for example, if I want to understand the Phillips curve in India right now, or the unemployment situation is very high in India right now, how exactly is happening and what exactly is the lever that you should pull. So these are the things that we will do as a macroeconomist. Okay. So all right. So I'll end this lecture here, and thank you, and we'll see other topics in the next few lectures.